What do you think is the #1 root cause of failures on practical?
Misconception on how difficult it actually is. You know, we get a lot of guys that say that they're an operator, but when you start talking to them, their experience level doesn't really match what some people would call an operator.
So they might have been on a crane for a little bit, pulled a control, but they've never had any training. What type of preparation might get these guys more ready for a CCO practical exam?
You know, nothing's actually going to replace experience and time. But if they know they're coming in, if they're not a full-time operator, then they should really consider taking a longer course.
Such as our mobile crane operator training class to prepare novices or new people to become a crane operator.
Exactly.
Give them some additional stake time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really what it comes down to, is getting more time and more familiarization.
What are some of the common errors that we see that lead to a lack of success?
One, tunnel vision. You know, people get so focused on something in particular that they forget about planning their lift or correcting a mistake that's taking place just because they're still focused in on that. For example, the barrels.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so when they go to swing over to the barrels and put the ball down in it, a lot of times the guys will get so focused on the barrel, they stop paying attention to their headache ball and their control.
One of the things I notice, especially for new operators, is intuition and instinct gives the opposite of what needs to be done as far as skills. When someone is about to hit something, their instinct is to move the crane in the opposite direction to get away from that obstruction,
right,
rather than moving it towards it. And that only comes from experience. If they're relying on their instinct to get them through, they're going to crash or burn.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When that ball swings or that weight swings toward an area they don't want it to, they want to yank it the opposite way, and all they do is make it worse. And like you said, that takes an experienced operator knowing, okay, this mistake's happened, this is how I fix it.
I see a lot of guys trying to make their plan while they're taking the test and trying to figure out what they're going to do while they're in the practical.
They're winging it.
Yeah, and you know, how often does that get success?
So if someone is a professional, they can get away with winging it. But when you're coming in, you're relatively new, you're still learning how everything works, then you have to have a plan.
Yes.
Now, the plan doesn't always work, but just having a guideline and a plan to start with gives you a better chance of success. It's something that we teach a lot in our courses.
Now, one of the biggest stressors out there is the clipboard and the stopwatch. And people get into a huge hurry, you know, especially towards the end of the course. Now, our favorite saying as far as speed is what?
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Thing is those guys see that clipboard and that stopwatch, and you're right, their anxiety goes through the roof. And when their anxiety goes through the roof, their brain just stops working. It happens to all of us.
Yeah, test anxiety. Test anxiety during a practical exam is a real thing. And it's hard to beat unless you're comfortable with what you're doing. I find it's very common for someone to fail this test the first time, survive it without passing it, and then come in and pass it the second time, knowing that one, it's not as difficult in their head as what they think. And once they've experienced it, pass or fail, the next time they do it typically is a lot better.
It's one of those things where you can see that anxiety get to people. You'll watch them practice and run the crane, and the guy's a phenomenal operator. Then the moment someone's standing there with a stopwatch and goes 1, 2, 3, go, you see him tense to the point where you can see veins standing out in their head. And when they get that tense, you know the anxiety's hitting them and they're not going to perform.
We end up reading them a lot of instructions. This is what you're going to do, and we always seem to ask, do you understand these instructions? We always get a nod, a yes.
And they always say afterwards, I didn't hear a word.
So understanding that they have an awful lot of control in this test rather than us. If they don't understand it, we want them to tell us If they're not ready for the next task and they need to catch their breath, they have the ability to say, I'm not ready, let me catch your breath.
Absolutely.
You know, all these little things to get their head into the game. If they tell me that they're ready to go, I'm going to start the test. And that makes it feel like it's being rushed sometimes.
Yeah, when we ask these guys, are you ready, that is a legitimate question.
Yes.
They need to understand. They have the right to say, no, give me a second.
Yes.
Or repeat the instructions.
Or repeat them in a different way. Keeping your mind in the game. This is more of a mental thing sometimes than a skill thing. The skill's in the hand. You have to know what the controller is going to do and how it moves and which way you have to move when, the timing of the machines. And every machine is different. You have to, if you get 15 minutes to learn the timing of the machine, you better take it. And if that 15 minutes doesn't give you the timing of the machine, then don't take your test.
Yeah.
We don't force anybody to take a test, and we don't prohibit anybody who says they're ready from taking the test.
That's right.
What's the hardest thing for you in administering a test?
Getting people to relax a little bit, listen to instructions, and if they're not ready, actually say they're not ready.
We can't coach.
No.
And once we start testing, we're administering a test. For me, sometimes it's remaining neutral for a test, not giving them clues one way or the other. Everybody's supposed to get the exact same practical exam.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I tell people in class is, during class, I'm here to help you. I'll do everything I can. But when it comes to exam time, I am a neutral party. I have no input. I have no say. I'm there to read off the instructions, make sure they understand, and administer the test by the book.
When they're done taking the test, we're going to tell them, thank you for participating, your results will get to you. They need to know that they want to talk about it. Well, they're not supposed to.
Right.
And we can't talk to them about the test at all. We can't give them a clue one way or the other if they pass or fail. If they really think they did horribly, we need to ask the test again. If they think they did well, congratulations, you did well. But we're not going to tell them one way or the other if they passed or failed.
Correct, absolutely.